Well, this isn't going exactly how I planned it. Damn it. In today's video I'll show you how to properly draw a fabric. If you can shade a fabric, you can shade almost anything. Today I want to show you a slightly different approach. The skull is finished. And now comes to the fabric, or the drapery. It's one of the most boring parts of the drawing, at least for me. Fabric isn't overly sensitive to proportions, but it's really sensitive to form. And it's not just about copying shadows. So we begin with the force lines: tension, weight, gravity, and this is the moment where the most people make mistakes. They draw folds, but ignore the force that created them. Drapery is one of the most fundamental subjects you can study in the drawing, and it's perfectly suited for practicing shading. The lines I'm creating right now represent the basic bend of the fabric. They function as the guiding lines that will later help me shape the light and the shadow. In the lower third, the process becomes more detailed because the drapery creates a more complex texture and the structure surface there. In a moment, we'll get to the most important phase, edge modeling. But before that, if you'd like to see the full skull process or extended version with more detailed commentary, you'll find it in the description. Now, back to the bend of fabric and the tension point. In the next step, I begin with the mesh shading. You can see how sharp my pencil is. I'm using the edge of the tip. I establish flat shadow areas that suggest the underlying form I'll refine later. This process allows me to quickly organize the shadows and sketch the basic structural movement of the fabric. It's efficient and very fast. There are several types of drapery folds. I won't overwhelm you with terminology. What's important is to understand one principle, and I'll demonstrate it directly in the drawing. We have a pipe folds, zigzag, and diaper folds, which dominate the upper 2/3 of this drawing. Then there are spiral folds, half-log folds, and others. But if you start drawing them as a template, you'll lose on naturalism. What really matters for us is the so-called tension point, the place where everything begins. Every drapery setup has a point of support, and that point creates a kind of epicenter from which tension lines radiate outward. I indicate those lines at the beginning. They're not random. They determine the direction of the folds. When drawing drapery, it's crucial to perceive rhythm because none of these lines or folds are accidental. Each one has a direction influenced by others. In this particular drawing, the tension points are actually outside of the visible area, so I'm only constructing the visual result. At this stage, I'm not thinking too much about precise values. I'm simply separating dark and light areas. In this way, I already establish almost all major transitions. In the lower third of the drawing, the process slows down because it's more complex. We need to clearly define where each fold sits. Now comes the softening and blending. For this, I'm using a tool called a blending knife, essentially a small tool with a sponge tip, which works well for smudging graphite or charcoal. It's a very useful drawing tool. I also often use a regular tissue or a blending stump or even a simple brush. At this stage, we need to be careful about one thing. Blending is not the goal, it's just a transition. We don't want to create a soft gray mass, we're preparing a base for modeling the form. This is where the drapery starts behaving like a landscape. It has peaks, valleys, and breaks. Every fold follows its own logic of light. Where the surface turns away from the light, a core shadow appears. Where it turns back, reflected light emerges. Now I take a sharp pencil again and begin deepening the shadows, exactly in the areas where the folds close most tightly. These areas function as visual anchors. They hold the entire drapery together. Without them, it would feel flat and unconvincing. You may notice that I don't fill the shadows evenly. Some areas are left breathing Because fabric is not a metal, it doesn't reflect light sharply, it absorbs and softly returns into the space. These subtle transitions create an illusion of the softness. Gradually I build the value range from darkest areas deep within the folds to the subtle halftones on the raised surfaces. This is the point where it's decided whether the fabric will feel soft or like a cardboard. Now we arrive at one of the most important principles: hard and soft edges. Without them, drapery will always appear flat, no matter how well you distribute your values. Because form doesn't arise only from light and dark, but from the transitions between them. Some folds break light abruptly, those create hard edges. Usually, these occur where the fabric bends sharply or touches another surface. For example, where it meets the table or in the deepest creases. On the other hand, where the fabric gently turns into space, the light transitions smoothly, creating a soft edge. These areas don't require pressure but control. Hard edges define the structure. Soft edges create an illusion of the softness. If all edges were hard, the fabric would look like a sheet of metal. If all were soft, it would lose form. Realism comes from their alternation, and this is the stage where the drawing is either saved or ruined. So I intentionally keep some transitions sharp and others gradual, often refining them with a very fine tip. In this final stage, especially I pay attention to the rhythm of the fabric, its movement and flow. I look for the S-curves, waves and abstract shapes created by compressed cloth. As I mentioned before, factors like tension, gravity generate the rhythm. So, what should you look for? First, direction. Folds almost never run perfectly parallel. They tend to converge toward or diverge from the tension point. It's similar to the flow of the water. Everything has a direction. If we ignore that flow, the drapery will feel artificial. The second thing is spacing. Folds don't repeat mechanically, they alternate: wide, narrow, deep, shallow. This visual beat creates a naturalism. If all folds are identical, you get a decorative pattern, not a form. The third aspect is a hierarchy. Not every fold is equally important. Some carry the main structural, while others are secondary. If we give them all the same weight, we lose clarity. So observe which lines lead to the movement and which ones simply support it. And finally, the rhythm of light. Light on drapery behaves in sequences. Light, halftone, core shadow, reflected light. This cycle repeats, but never identically. In that subtle irregularity, the illusion of soft living fabric emerges. When we draw drapery, We are not just copying a shape, we are searching for the rhythm of forces that create it and translating that into line and value. Now, look at it as a whole. Pause for a second, you may notice one thing. Fabric itself isn't inherently interesting. It has no anatomy, no expression, no identity. And yet, it reveals whether we truly understand the form. If you follow only the contour, it will fall apart. If you copy only the shadows, it remains flat. But when you begin to perceive the tension, rhythm and the flow of the light, it stops being fabric, it becomes space. And that's why the old masters studied it. Not for decoration, but for form. So next time you see a piece of fabric thrown over a table, don't look at the faults, look at the forces that created them. If this feels too complex right now, start with a simple sphere shading video you see here on the screen. Light and shadows fundamentals are essential. If you want to go deeper, membership is linked below in the description. And if you made it this far, comment the word value and I'll select few of you and evaluate your drawing if you send it to the mail here on the screen. Some of you will receive free online video feedback with improvement tips in one of the upcoming videos. Thank you for your attention and I'll see you on the next one.